the role of the Ninth Assembly in the return of the nation's budget cycle to January and December.
And President Muhammadu Buhari has, on behalf of the Federal Executive Council, sent greetings to the leadership and members, extolling their sense of duty and diligence in moving the nation forward.
All right, that's what, Kingsley. And many Nigerians say they are particularly pleased with the harmonious working relationship between the executive arm of government and the National Assembly. While the cordial relationship has helped the speedy passage of bills, some are worried that it might blind the eyes of the Senate to its oversight functions on the executive arm.
Well, the Senate has carried out a number of confirmation hearings for appointments proposed by the executive arm. And in the past year, the Senate has screened and confirmed some 33 presidential confirmation requests so far.
Well, this assembly has indeed been busy. Reports say they have introduced about 450 bills in the last 1 year alone. Some of these bills have already been signed into law, and others are in different stages of legislative processing.
Now, the House of Representatives has equally been active, and it's been working on the basis of a 15-point legislative agenda, which includes anti-corruption, accountability and transparency, health, budget reform, national development, among others.
And under this agenda, the House has introduced 853 bills and passed 36, which have been sent to the Senate for assent. Currently, 639 bills are waiting second reading. Over 100 bills have been referred to committees, while 65 are waiting third reading.
Now, having been functioning with an agenda titled a National Assembly that works for Nigeria, the question that arises is how much of the actions of both chambers, let's say the Senate and the House of Representatives, have really touched the lives of ordinary Nigerians in the past year? And what positive impact has the Ninth Assembly had on national integration and development? We'll raise these questions and more with our guests in the course of the program later on. My name is Kingsley Osadolo.
Yeah, the National Assembly that works for Nigeria. So the previous ones didn't work for Nigeria. So well, that's good because of the harmonious relationship between the executive and the legislature. I am Kirian Umar. Many thanks for joining us on this edition of Good Morning Nigeria, beaming live into your homes on the network service of the NTA. And in the course of the program, we shall, as usual, bring you other complimentary segment of the show. For now, let's join Ann Jibono for the Good Morning News.
Hello and welcome to the news. In the early hours of this morning, Wednesday, June 17th, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, confirmed 490 new cases of COVID-19 in the country. These 490 new cases raises the number of confirmed cases to 17,148. In the breakdown, Lagos has 142, the FCT has 60, Bayelsa 54, Rivers 39, Delta 37, Oyo 30, Kaduna 26, Imo 23, Enugu 19, Kwara 17, Gombe 11, Ondo 10, Bauchi 8, Ogun 7, Borno 6, and Benue 1. Lagos remains top on the Nigeria COVID-19 chart with 7,461 cases. Next on the chart is the FCT with 1,324, followed by Kano with 1,158. About 455 people are reported to have died from COVID-19 complications so far, while 5,623 patients have been discharged after recovery. Meanwhile, the Lagos state government has suspended planned reopening of churches and mosques indefinitely as a result of rising cases of COVID-19 in the state. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, at a news briefing on the update of COVID-19, assured residents that government will continue to base its decision-making on data modeling to ensure the protection of lives and property. Away from COVID stories, the Court of Appeal sitting in Abuja has affirmed the suspension of Comrade Adams Oshomole as a member and national chairman of the All Progressives Congress. Ruling on the interlocutory appeal filed by Comrade Oshomole, the appellate court upheld the decision of the Federal Capital Territory High Court delivered by Justice Dankame Senchi, which in March ordered the suspension of Oshomole as well as restraining him from parading himself as the national chairman of the party. In a unanimous judgment in the first appeal delivered by Justice Eunice Onyemenam, the court held that the FCT High Court had territorial jurisdiction to have entertained the suit as it did. The court also withdrew his rights and privileges as national chairman of the party, including his security details. In the meantime, the National Working Committee of the All Progressives Congress says it has received the news indicating the appeal court has upheld the suspension of the party's national chairman, Comrade Adams Oshomole, by an FCT High Court pending the determination of the substantive suit. The party's National Publicity Secretary, Lanre Issa Onilu, in a statement, said APC is guided by advice from the party's legal department in line with the provisions of Section 1423 of the party's constitution, and the Deputy National Chairman South, Senator Abiola Ajimobi, will serve as the party's acting national chairman. According to Section 1423 of the APC Constitution, the Deputy National Chairman North-South shall act as the National Chairman in the absence of the National Chairman from his zone. Away from politics, as Nigeria joins the international community to celebrate the Day of the African Child, President Muhammadu Buhari has pledged the commitment of government to protect children from sexual violence, domestic abuse, and exploitation. The president reiterates his administration's will continue to ensure that every Nigerian child has access to quality and affordable education by promoting free and compulsory basic education for the first 9 years of schooling. President Buhari expresses concern on the recent spate of sexual and physical violence on the girl child and directs relevant government agencies to scale up support for victims of violence and ensure that those who have infringed on their rights face the full weight of the law. The federal government has threatened to sack all striking National Association of Resident Doctors who failed to report to work on Wednesday as the ongoing reconciliation meeting ended in deadlock. Minister of Health, Dr. Osage Ehanire, has directed all chief medical directors of federal medical centers to open a register by 7 o'clock in the morning and close it at 12 noon to take record of those who report to work and those who fail to turn up. The meeting, which commenced at 1:30 p.m. Tuesday, ended at 7:45 in the evening after members of the association, led by the president, stormed out of the meeting, insisting they would only suspend the ongoing action within 24 hours if the government brings something tangible on the table. And that concludes the news highlights for now. Good morning, Nigeria. On the first anniversary of the 9th National Assembly, we'll continue after this break with Kingsley and Kieran. I am Anne Jibuno. Good morning.
I just don't understand this coronavirus thing. Is it real?
See, coronavirus, known as COVID-19, it's a global problem and has killed thousands of people in China, Italy, Spain, UK, US, and other countries around the world.
Okay. Now, why are they saying that we should stay home?
Because if you go outside and get in contact with someone who is infected, you become infected and then come back home, affect your family. That's how it happens in other countries.
Now, please, help me explain what this social distance is all about.
See, as we are now, the virus travels through the air and by touch. We must maintain 6-foot distance at all times.
Oh, so it's not by washing my hands with soap and water or hand sanitizer that is only important?
Washing of our hands regularly is very important. But we must come together and fight this virus like we did Ebola. It is our responsibility to each other.
The main way coronavirus spread is when infected people sneeze and cough. Small droplets of fluid expelled by cough or sneezes, are laced with viruses looking for new respiratory tracts to infect. When a sick person sneezes around someone who is healthy, the virus can land in the nose, mouth, or even the eyes, causing an infection. Symptoms can include fever, cough, shortness of breath. Symptoms may appear within 2 to 14 days. Seek medical advice if you develop symptoms and have been in close contact with a person known to have COVID-19, or if you live or have recently been in an area with ongoing spread of COVID-19. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network. In this time of despair, our country, Nigeria, needs us now more than ever. We stand a chance to save our great country, Nigeria. A chance to rise up from this pandemic stronger and better. What will be the gain if we do not learn from other countries and observe the lockdown to stop the further spread of the virus? If we loosen our guards and allow this virus doom our very existence, then what have we gained? This is the call to every Nigerian to unite as one and stop the spread of this deadly virus. Stay at home and stay safe. Remember, the virus doesn't move unless we move. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network. The number of the COVID-19 cases in Nigeria is increasing daily, with many more tests ongoing. The battle of testing, isolating, treating, and attending to the affected persons rests heavily on the shoulders of our health workers, constantly putting their lives on the line and at risk to contain this virus, save and protect the lives of millions of Nigerians. To these health workers, we at the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, on behalf of millions of Nigerians, say a big thank you for all that you have done and are doing. To the security agencies enforcing the lockdown and every other frontliner, we say thank you for putting your lives on the line to save ours. There is no amount of words that can quantify our gratitude. Thank you. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
Do you not know that our enemies have no face? They are indigents of no state. They come from no place. And if this boat capsizes, every one of us will go under. So when the drums sound, let everybody answer. Do not say, I am the Iroko when the forest is burning. Do not say, I am the Obeche when the forest is burning. Our differences will not stop us from perishing together. So when the drums sound, let everybody answer.
Project restart in full swing. Arsenal will be hoping for a restart of their own as they try to push for a European spot when they take on Brighton. Watch Brighton versus Arsenal on Premier League Live this Saturday from 2:30 p.m. on NTA and NTA Sports. The Premier League Live is brought to you by Access Bank and Baba Ijebu.
Well, thank you for staying with us up to this moment. This is Good Morning Nigeria. We go business. Business experts call for more investments in the manufacturing sector to revive the economy. Let's now join Kunle Adeye for details.
Nigeria's economy is gradually picking up following the negative effects of COVID-19. With uncertainty still surrounding the global oil market, many countries have been adopting various steps to help their economies out of the woods. An economic development and investment promotion expert, Ogbonna Okuku, has advised the federal government to invest in the manufacturing sector as remedy. He said the sector is capable of revamping the economy following the number of people involved in every production chain. Mr. Okuku also said this will enable Nigeria gain more in terms of technology acquisition.
Oil is no more, as far as I am concerned, and the whole world knows that oil is selling at a very ridiculous price at this point in time. There has to be a direct focus or refocusing of the economy from oil to manufacturing, and if you must do that, there has to be your raw material supply strategy has to be watertight. It has to be properly aligned with the industrial revolution that has to happen within the next 6-7 months.
And the equities market on Tuesday closed on a negative note as Nigeria's stock exchange all share index depreciated by minus 0.09% to close at 24,930.88% as against minus 0.91% depreciation recorded previously. With business news, I'm Kunle Adeyeye.
Thank you very much, Kunle, for the business package. Next is newspaper review.
Let's welcome Bayo Toyebi, our reviewer. He's here with us as always. Bayo, it's a pleasure.
Good morning, Nigeria. Thank you. Good morning, Kingsley.
All right, Bayo,
good morning, Nigeria.
Let's begin with the Nation newspaper. Above the nameplate, resident doctors strike on as talks halt. It's on page 7. Property linked to Bauchi governor seized. Lagos worship centers won't reopen. Naira Marley tackles airline CEO. Electricity tariff to go up next month. EPL returns as Man City hosts Arsenal. You can get those stories on pages 8, 25, and 31. Now, below the nameplate, we have the lead story. Edo Governor Obaseki Shaibu resigned from APC. Appeal Court upholds Oshiomhale's suspension as NWC picks Ajimobi as acting chairman. Minister hails media over virus battle. Wike may lockdown Boni. Umahi opens isolation center. Fear of implosion grips Abia. Virus drug not approved. Kwara viewing centers can't open. Pages 6 and 7 is where you get those stories. All right, and of course the photo story is showing protests by Niger State youths protesting the killing by bandits. All right, and below that we have anti-banditry protest. Rock Katsina, Niger says that same story, and it's on page 5. Buhari orders operational court to finish off criminals. What universities must do to reopen by minister. That's on page 8. Saudi may cancel 2020 Hajj. That is contained on page 6 of the Nation. Kinsley.
Okay, well, we also have the Punch newspaper. I'll skip the lead story because it's on the APC's worsening crisis, as the paper describes it in the kicker to that headline. It has to do with Adams Oshiomhale and then, of course, the governor of Edo State over issues relating to the primaries ahead of the governorship elections later. So above the name flag of the Punch newspaper, we'll take the following headline. It says, new electricity tariffs effective July, says minister. That's on page 21. UK researchers list drug as likely COVID-19 cure. That's page 29. And on page 10, Wadume says, soldiers shot our driver and fired at me in the bush, says survivor. Foreign reserves fall by $129.83 million in 1 week. Details on page 23. And you see the photographs there also on the front page of the Punch newspaper. That's the outcome of the resident doctor strike. It says federal government demands attendance registers and meeting deadlock. That's page 9. Court martial dismisses ex-GOC over stolen 400 million naira. NYC camps, that is orientation camps, should be closed for 2 years. That's attributed to the vice president who chaired the Economic Sustainability Committee. That's page 6. JAMB and universities adopt 160 as UTME cutoff mark. JAMB and universities adopt 160 as UTME cutoff mark. Details on page 8. And then also there, ICPC seizes Bauchi governor's FCT property. Katsina youth protest against killings and emirs meet, page 10. Naira Marley, executive jet fight dirty. Fashola denies involvement. Nayo.
Well, let's start with the situation with the strike by resident doctors. There was a meeting yesterday for which the Minister of Labour was mediating between the National Association of Resident Doctors and the Minister of Health. After hours of the meeting apparently ended in the deadlock, and the doctors said that if government brings some action on the table within 24 hours, they will be consider coming back, but apparently walking out of the meeting. The Minister of Health has said that, well, it behoves on the ministry to protect citizens, particularly people who are in the hospitals. Doctors should see reason with government as government is trying to meet their demand. But the ministry said it's ready to pursue the course of action to protect the lives of all Nigerians. Accordingly, the minister has directed chief medical directors of federal institutions to open registers 7 a.m. today, Wednesday, and record all those who come to work and those who don't come to work by close of work by 12 o'clock. Those who come to work will be understood to be in service when the register closes at 12 o'clock. It may be recalled that University of Port Harcourt Resident Doctors Association refused to join. They say that this is not the time to call or go on strike. They say that it behoves on doctors to put the interests of the people at heart. We hope that some solution will be found, because this is a very critical moment. We can't afford to have our doctors out of service.
Yes, just like you rightly said, you know, it's a wrong time to do this, because if they have the life of Nigerians at heart, they don't have to do that. If there is any matter to settle with government, it's not at this point when the nation is passing through difficult times, you know. I don't know. It depends on the leadership of the union or association. But then we have to be human. I think the primary assignment of a medical personnel is to save life, and in this condition,
you will recall that just last week, when the Senate and House of Reps were reviewing the budget, they deliberately made provision for the allowances of medical personnel ensuing from this COVID-19. Specifically, attention has been made has been given to their cause, and I think it's a matter of time for which to pass through the normal process before it got to them. But apparently, they seem to think that nothing is being done about it.
What are they striking for? Is there any particular demand?
There are demands. Among their demands are implementation of the act that talks about resident medical doctors, their conditions and other stipulations. They are also demanding hazard allowance and also health insurance for doctors. All these have been on the table. You recall that at the peak of, at the start of the COVID-19 thing, the Minister of Labour specifically admitted that the hazard allowance for doctors that has been on record has been only 5,000 naira, which was meager. And subsequently, after meetings, they had reviewed the hazard allowance to accommodate the exigencies of the moment. And I think that the delay now is that the review hazard allowance are not getting to the doctors as yet.
All right, I'm sure that you're able to sort that out.
The other positive news Kingsley read about,
almost forgotten, is that ASU is also on strike. ASU.
Yes.
It's also on strike. I said almost forgotten.
Yes. We're not worried about ASU anymore. I mean, it's been there.
I was talking about the development about dexamethasone, a drug that has been found in UK now that has potential for helping those who are in critical conditions from COVID-19. The advantages of this drug is that it is available and it is cheap and can even be made accessible for the third world countries. And the Prime Minister of UK says that with this drug, if they had known, it would have cut some of their deaths by about 5,000 lives could have been saved. And presently, what they are saying that United Kingdom has 2,996,000 cases and about 41,736 deaths. And they are lamenting that if they had discovered this drug earlier on, many of the thousands of lives probably would have been saved. Scientists at Oxford University worked in their research and were able to discover this drug that is already in existence.
Yeah, you know, the thing about COVID-19 is that because of its novel nature, you know, I mean, it was difficult for the medical community globally, you know, to decipher what between one drug and the other, which one will actually attack the virus. You know, what I've been doing is just a protocol, you know, that will be dealing with you know, other elements around it. But this time around, if they can get something that will strike on the virus, that would be a big discovery.
Oxford University you know, has been at the front line of researchers seeking a solution to coronavirus. As you said, I mean, this is, in a sense, I mean, you have all kinds of propositions with regard to what the most efficacious cure would be. This one appears to be a very strong candidate, as you have indicated. But we'll see how things go. This story on JAMB. Yesterday, JAMB held its what it refers to as its policy meeting. This meeting, of course, now was virtual on account of coronavirus. It's usually at a policy meeting that the stakeholders, these are to say the institutions as well as JAMB itself, which is the coordinator, they will set the cutoff mark for the UTME, which JAMB concluded just before the lockdown measures were introduced. Now, they settled for 160 as a cutoff mark for this year. But I think that there are some issues that would need to be resolved on the basis of the story as published by The Punch. I don't have other details. I'll give you an example. It says that's the Honorable Minister of State for Education, who also attended the meeting, as I said, the virtual meeting, said listed conditions to be satisfied before the reopening of schools that were shut down to contain the spread of coronavirus. Now, the Minister of State also directed JAMB and tertiary institutions to proceed with the conduct of the 2020-21 admissions scheduled to commence in August based on the guidelines released by JAMB. I'm just wondering here, to say the 2020-21 admissions would have started, of course, for September if the school calendar had not been disrupted. Yes. Now, a number of the candidates who sat for this year's JAMB, that's to say UTME, are in SS3. Yes. I mean, they had about 1.9 million candidates who sat for the exam. Yeah. Those candidates have not had the opportunity of writing their SSCE, nor have they had the opportunity of writing their NECO. And these are the certificates you would require for you to process your admission. Yes, you have your JAMB scores on the one hand, but you don't have the additional entry requirements, which are the certificate exams. And it is not your fault that you have not been able to write those certificate exams. So in the meantime, you say the schools will remain closed, then JAMB should proceed and institutions should proceed with the admission. How do you resolve that?
I think they're trying to look for a shortcut so that we don't have so many of them accumulating. But they've already done JAMB. What they are about to do now, by this cutoff mark, is the matriculation examination, UTME. If that is done, subsequently, by the time they are considering that, the exit students will go back to school. Immediately, that will mean that those who will be sitting for WIC and NECO will be the potential candidates, and therefore they will have met the premier facie qualification for the JAMB has been done, UTME has been done. By the time they do their WIC and NECO, they now have the prerequisite certificate. I think it is trying to reduce the burden. But I see the problem you are facing. Yes. But my worry is the cutoff mark. For universities is 160, polytechnics is 140, College of Education 120, and people have emphasized that those in the College of Education are the ones who are responsible for our foundational education, teaching people from the primary and the secondary schools. And we always select the lower rung of them to go into teaching. And that is responsible for the retardation of our educational system.
No, Kyria, I'm sorry. Let me just respond. Let me respond to what Bayo is saying. Bayo, this aspect has often been responded to by the JAMB registrar.
Yes.
And it says that the difficulty of the examinations, are often, and therefore the cutoff mark, will be in tandem with the level of education that the individual is seeking. For colleges of education, it's a 3-year program. And of course, no college of education graduates will teach in a university or teach in a high school or otherwise. Usually they will teach in elementary schools. And then for those who are getting to the university, a number of them are also applying for education courses in faculties. And therefore they will qualify as teachers to also be in the system.
Well, the disruption by COVID-19 is yet to unfold, in the education sector, and it's affecting education sector globally. Nigeria is not an exception.
That's right.
And at this point, we are concluding this very edition of Newspaper Review, and we'd like to appreciate Bayo. We didn't have time to go into the editorial, which is talking about next ultimatum to discourse on electricity meters, which we've been discussing on this program for a very long time.
Yes.
For now, let's thank Bayo for coming.
Thank you.
See you again tomorrow. All right. The program is Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. Let's take a short break now. When we get back, we'll be dealing with our major topic for today.
Coronavirus, also known as COVID-19, is spreading at an alarming rate all over the globe, including Nigeria. With the number of infected persons in Nigeria increasing daily, prevention is better than cure. Coronavirus has no cure. The virus spreads from one person, who affects 2 persons, and by the time the affected person is isolated, the 2 persons have affected 4, and it keeps spreading. You must take preventive measures to save yourself and that of the people around you. Always wash your hands with soap and water. Put distance between yourself and others. Whenever you cough or sneeze, cover your mouth. Clean and disinfect surfaces. Stay at home if you're sick and contact the proper authorities. Together, we can cut down the spread of the coronavirus. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest TV network.
With the Premier League's Project Restart in full swing, Arsenal will be hoping for a restart of their own as they try to push for a European spot when they take on Brighton. Watch Brighton versus Arsenal on Premier League Live this Saturday from 2:30 p.m. on NTA and NTA Sports. The Premier League Live is brought to you by Access Bank and Baba Ijebu.
Now believe this Korotin. You know if you touch black man, if you like gather the whole Niger come together, make the cough. Nothing.
Which one you want?
Give me V and D.
I better get small pieces.
How much you want to give him?
Give me 200. Take your change now.
You know what your change is?
My people, this coronavirus, na serious matter. May una wash una hands regularly. Come use alcohol-based hand sanitizer. If you no see water, wash your hand. Make una sit down for house. You see this virus, so it no get leg. Now we dey waka kurukere. No waka around, make the virus for die. No forget, say, the betterment of our people. Now for your handy day.
This message is from the Akinfade Foundation in partnership with the National Orientation Agency with support from MacArthur Foundation.
Coronavirus is real. Steps to avoid this pandemic. Wash your hands regularly or sanitize your hands. Keep social and physical distancing. Avoid crowded places. Stay at home unless absolutely necessary. Don't touch your eyes, nose, or mouth if your hands are not clean. Avoid the spread of coronavirus. Coronavirus is real.
Let's do something more interesting. Let's sing.
amazing moms who nurture the uniqueness in our kids while keeping them healthy and safe. So kids, stay indoors, wash your hands, and enjoy your favorite delicious Indomie noodles. Indomie noodles, tasty nutrition, good for you.
There is a lot of fake news and report circulating, especially on social media, on the coronavirus. Do not believe or partake in the spread of these fake reports. If it is not on the official website or news from the Nigerian Center for Disease Control, NCDC, disregard such report. Only together can we beat this virus. Only together can we overcome this pandemic. Follow the instructions and guidelines provided to combat this virus. Most importantly, stay at home. Self-isolate, regardless of your status. The virus doesn't move unless we move. Let us work together to better Nigeria. Together, we can do this. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We are, of course, discussing today the first anniversary of the 9th National Assembly. And before we kick off, here is the background put together by our correspondent, Oyemi Ajayi.
Over the years, the Federal Republic of Nigeria has operated a bicameral legislature modeled after the U.S. Congress. For Nigeria, it is 109 members in the Senate and 360 members at the House of Representatives, with equal representation from all states of the Federation. The Assembly has a broad oversight functions and is empowered to establish committees of its members to scrutinize bills and the conduct of oversight functions on federal government offices, ministries, and parastatals. The 9th National Assembly came in with the promise to ensure positive change in the polity, with the interest of Nigerians at heart. Members were inaugurated on the 11th of June 2019, with Ahmed Ibrahim Lawan as the Senate President and Femi Gbajabiamila as the Speaker of the House of Representatives. The return of the budget to January to December cycle and the record of 2 weeks passage of the amended 2020 appropriation bill, as well as the economic stimulus bill in response to COVID-19, are a few of the pace-setting achievements of the 9th House. With the nature of legislative-executive relationship, the pace of bill passage and resolutions, conclusive investigative process, transparency in legislative budgeting, the 9th House of Assembly has been described as a very active one. For example, in the first 6 months, the National Assembly has reconstructed the thorough relationship between the legislature and executive, and this has resulted in seamless lawmaking process, with the Senate passing many bills, including major economic bills, Deep Offshore Amendment Bill, Finance Bill 2019 that restructured Nigerian taxpayers and removed agriculture and some pharmaceuticals from taxation, plus the Public Procurement Act Amendment Bill aimed at removing delay in the process. The legislative-executive relationship reached its height when the 2020 budget was passed within 3 months of presentation by the President. For the Green Chamber, it was a 15-point legislative agenda, basically budget reform, fighting corruption and accountability. With 853 bills introduced, 36 bills have been passed into law, as well as 639 awaiting second reading and 65 awaiting third reading. Part of the major bills passed include the power sector reform, which criminalizes estimated billings, and economic stimulus bill in response to COVID-19. How well are the two chambers fared in their responsibilities? And what more do Nigerians expect from them? These are some of the questions guests will be answering on this edition of Good Morning Nigeria.
All right, and here in the studio to actually discuss today's topic, we have Honorable Benjamin Kalu. Honorable Benjamin Kalu is the spokesman of the House of Representatives, and it's a pleasure to have you here this morning.
Thank you very much.
Yes, you told us a short while ago you are a first timer, and of course, I'm sure you're learning very speedily.
I'm learning.
All right, and also seated with us here in the studio is Uke Pierre. Uke is Executive Director Order Paper Nigeria. It's also a pleasure to have you here this morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
All right, but gentlemen, once again, I'd like to have you with us on this conversation. Honorable Benjamin Carl, of course, we've had the benefit of you being our guest on Good Morning Nigeria in the past. But today, we're reviewing the first year of the 9th Assembly, and as you just indicated, that's re-echoed by my colleague, you are a freshman lawmaker. But of course, you've had cause to also interact with ranking lawmakers in the National Assembly. Let's just begin, from the mood and signaling. What did the 9th National Assembly seek to achieve, either by its conduct, by its utterances, by its mien, by its disposition, against the background of earlier experiences?
Thank you very much. And Nigerians, thank you for tuning in. When we arrived to commence our job in June of last year, we observed a deep disconnect between the legislative arm and the executive arm. We also observe a mistrust and another deep disconnect between the public and the parliament, based on misinformation, half-baked information. So the administration of Femi Gbajabiamila thought it wise to come up with a mantra which was nation building, a joint task. He decided in his wisdom that building the nation was beyond the responsibility of one arm of government, was beyond the responsibility of one tier of government. So he called on all the political parties to come on board, join hands together, different arms of government participating in this nation building, as well as the different various levels of government, state, local governments, and federal. That was the focus of his campaign, his manifesto. And to achieve that, immediately we went into drafting a roadmap, which was the legislative agenda, to give us a direction towards realizing this particular objective. And we observed that we needed to set a roadmap for, sustainable power, a roadmap for improved agricultural life of the country, a roadmap for national budget planning reform, a roadmap for the power sector, the education sector, social justice, and all the rest of them. To achieve that, the National Assembly, the House of Rep, did not waste time in setting up committees, House committees. We met 95 House committees when we came. But the hydra-headed nature of the problems in Nigeria and the need to have an immediate intervention, inspire the leadership of the House to increase the House committees from 95 to 105, not 103, to 105. And competent hands were, given the duty to do that. But beyond the legislative, our plan, the roadmap, legislative agenda, beyond the House of Rep, House Committee, the House operates through various modes, which is one, lawmaking according to 88, 89 of the Constitution, two, oversight function, and three, representative function. And in doing that, they use motions, they use bills, they use petitions from the public. And at the moment, just like you highlighted there, we have done 854 bills, out of which 600 and about 83 or thereabout has gone through, they are ready for second reading. 36 of it has been approved. And I like I told you before we started, that you've done my job by, highlighting the benefit of these bills. They are people-oriented bills set out there to solve problems, like, solution providers. We have also gone into motions. We have done 364 motions, and these motions, only one was rejected. And these motions captured issues affecting Nigerians, from the financial misappropriation in the country, to insecurity in the country, to as well as the COVID-related issues, bringing back evacuation of Nigerians from overseas back home, interacting with the presidential task force to make sure that what they are doing is in line with what they expected to do, the funds, and not the rest of them. So these motions have been there to address some of these needs. But you must also understand that one of the key achievements we recorded when we came in was to pass the budget immediately, which was what this current government in the past dispensation had difficulty in realizing. And many people have asked, why was it so important to change the budget calendar? It gives room for proper economic development of the country. It adds value to planning, projections and all the rest of them. So we reversed the calendar from January to December. We reversed it to January to December, and we also made sure that it was passed in due time, thereby enabling and passing the ball to the court of the executive and say, we have energized you. No longer are you expected to come with a complaint that the National Assembly has incapacitated the flow of the things you're supposed to do. So we pass the ball to their court. And in addition, move also for a financial bill, which is to activate, the funding of this particular budget to make sure that it is, carried out the way it's supposed to be done without any thing stopping it from, realizing the objective. So we did our best to make sure that that particular arm of government, which is the executive, would not complain tomorrow and say, National Assembly held us back, which was what they experienced in the 8th Assembly. That is one of the things we recorded. And we have also tried to make sure that we reduce the opacity around the workings of the National Assembly, especially the House of Rep, by introducing what we call the Green Chamber magazine, that will help us tell our stories to Nigerians, engage Nigerians more, create a platform where we will educate Nigerians on the activities of the House of Rep, so that nobody will claim we don't know what they are doing. I think I'll stop there for now. And
yeah, you stop there for now, but I also want you to continue.
Okay.
It's interesting. You have reeled out some of the activities of the House of Reps within the last 1 year. But it's good also here for us to let our viewers know that we extended our invitation to Senator Yusuf, Chairman, Senate Committee on Special Duties, to be part of this program so that we'll have a kind of a holistic view of what the National Assembly is doing. But I want to ask you this question before we go to Pierre. The public has actually, or Nigerians have hardly come to terms with the activities of the National Assembly because of the reasons you earlier pointed out. There is a disconnect and, of course, misinformation as you have it. And now, within the last 1 year, would you say that the members of the National Assembly has impacted on the lives of Nigerians that they represent, in terms of oversight function, in terms of ensuring that there are appreciable measure of infrastructure in different parts of this country? Because the House of Reps, of course, you have more representation of Nigerians, as against what we have in the Senate, which is about 90-something, you over 300. And would you say that you have really impacted on Nigerians, with respect to perhaps development activities, as it were?
Yes, 1 year, this 1 year has been a unique 1 year. Unique in the sense that we started in June. By the time we got to February, COVID started. And it changed the dynamics. All projections were no longer what is supposed to be. But I must say that, yes, representative function is one of the functions of the House of Rep members, as captured by the Constitution. And I have always maintained that representation is the act of carrying the burden of your people from the constituencies to the center and then get solution for their needs. One of the ways we do that is to influence projects that will, what I mean by influencing is do a needs interpretation from the constituencies. We need light, we need water, we need all that. So that when we interact with the MDAs during budgets, we'll make sure that the spread of their infrastructure captures the needs of our people in these 360 constituencies. That we did during the budgets. There is no member that is representing a constituency that did not ask questions with regards to what is due for his people in his constituency. I'm sure we made impact there. But when it comes to execution, it is no longer our role to do. It is the executive. Our own is to appropriate. So the question should be, did we make effort during appropriation to ensure that projects that will reflect the needs of our people was captured in the budget? I can assure you, yes, that we made sure. But implementation, I'm sure, had been affected by COVID and other challenges. You know that because of COVID, that the budget has been reviewed recently.
Kind of oversight.
Oversight had been affected in a way because of the restriction. You know, the protocol of this particular COVID from WHO, social distancing and not the rest of them. You cannot really do a full oversight without being close to who you're oversighting. But because of the protocol, we have to observe the protocol because life comes first before this function. But suffice that to state that the House have tried through so many interventions to make sure that the needs of Nigerians, who are also our constituents, have been taken care of through so many interventions. We call it legislative intervention and diplomacy. That we have done with the Teachers Association when we asked for an improvement in their welfare. That we have done with the health workers when they wanted to go on strike, the FCT, and we intervened. That we have done with the electricity employees, national union, and all the rest of them. So I can say that though that COVID has affected us the way we're supposed to have done it, we have not gone the whole 9 years, but we have not been idle. Committees, even though we are on recess now, committees are having their hearings as we are on recess. We are interacting with PTF, we are interacting with Accountant General of the Federation, we are interacting with various other MDAs to make sure that humanitarian, especially the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, we ask questions and say, who are you paying? Who is receiving this palliative? What are the things that you are doing to intervene with regards to the poverty level of? So we are doing something despite the fact that the impact of the COVID has restricted us. So to a large extent, I said we are representing our people the way it ought to be, as allowed by the challenging times, because desperate time calls for desperate measures, and that is why we have also reviewed our legislative agenda to make sure that the way legislative functions are carried out, in view of this COVID, will be, done electronically. We'll try, maybe we'll come to that in the course of our discussion, because what we have done, we did not only review the budget to meet, because of the oil, the impact on oil, benchmarking that we did before, it has changed, so we had to review the budget. We also reviewed our legislative agenda to make sure that, not that it was weak before, but because of the challenging time, it was no longer sufficient to meet the expectation that we wanted to achieve with the legislative agenda. So the way business of the legislative house is done is going to be different from the way it used to be going forward.
All right, thank you very much, Honorable Benjamin Kalu, spokesman for the House of Representatives. Let's bring in Oke Epiap, who is of Other Paper Nigeria. Of course, your civil society organization has, as part of its focus, monitoring of the legislature, in particular the National Assembly. Give us a sense of what you have seen as the body language of the 9th Assembly and what your evaluation is of some of their follow-through actions.
Thank you, and once again, good to be here. The National Assembly started off with, let me say, on an ambitious note. And coming against the background, or coming from the background of the aid assembly that was perceived to have a very fractious relationship with the executive. The way the leadership of the current assembly emerged gave some kind of hope that, okay, look, we would see a lot more harmony between the executive and the legislature. And so I guess riding on that, they rolled out an ambitious legislative agenda, which I have read. And I think that they are trying their best to live up to it. It's also important to make the point that the current Speaker and President of the Senate are very tested, experienced, consummate lawmakers. So that background is also important to bear in mind how we perceive and how we assess them. How well have they implemented the agenda? It is just 1 year. It's early in the day. But you know what they say. You know how the rest of your day begins or is going to end by morning. And I think that there's still a lot of gaps that they should have covered in this 1 year. Gaps with respect to particularly oversight functions. With respect to lawmaking, the volumes are impressive, but it is not about the volumes. 853 bills in the House of Reps, 450 or so in the Senate. This speaks to volumes, right? But what is the content of those bills? So what are they addressing? What impact are they making in the lives of Nigerians? It's important to note, to point out that of the bills, 853 bills in the House of Representatives, only 36 have been passed. A huge majority of these bills are awaiting second reading. Of these bills that have been passed by the House, we have about close to, for my data analysis, about 40 of them awaiting consent or concurrence at the Senate. So it's not about the volumes, that's the point I'm making. It's about the content and the impact. Maybe we'll come to this later. With respect to oversight, I think that the House of Representatives and the Senate maybe should have done better with respect to the performance of that function. COVID-19 has exposed a whole lot of gaps in the system. We see the gaps in the health sector, where the Secretary to the government said that he didn't know that things were that bad in that sector. And we have a National Assembly that has been supervising or providing or performing oversight over that function. We've seen the difficulties around the distribution of palliatives. Palliatives measures under the social investment or social scheme of government. It's not new. The National Assembly is supposed to have been providing oversight. Okay, in the last 6 months before COVID started, let's say the first half of the current first year of the National Assembly, just how much did they interrogate the social investment program? Perhaps if they had done a thorough interrogation and oversight of that scheme, we will not be where we are, where even members of the National Assembly are seriously complaining that they don't see these palliatives, that their constituents are not receiving these palliatives, and they don't know what's going on. And that's very instructive. Let's go to the oil sector. This is 1 year down the line. There's still no direction with respect to legislative governance of the sector. I think that's unacceptable. That's the sector that runs. It is the mainstay of the economy. And yet we have the executive, or a part of the executive, waking up suddenly to remove subsidy, in quotes. So look, we are no longer paying subsidy or under recovery, whatever they call it. That's a very fundamental policy of government. Is the National Assembly aware? Have they been briefed? What is their position? Recall that it was subsidy removal in 2012 under the 7th Assembly that brought the country to a standstill for weeks, the Occupy Nigeria protest. So if government has currently gone back to this policy in a rather casual manner, if you permit me, what is the National Assembly doing about this? How is it going to affect and impact on the purchasing power of citizens? Have they interrogated that scheme? So these are just two examples. I would come to details perhaps. I just wanted to make this opening remarks that with respect to oversight, there are gaps that should not have been. With respect to representative functions, clearly they haven't done a lot. I mean, it's not all about constituency projects or zonal intervention projects. They just had the first budget, so we could excuse that. But how well have they interacted with citizens at the grassroots? Have we seen town hall meetings? We've seen gatherings. In the legislative agenda, you have a very ambitious and admirable goal to go to constituency. The leadership would go to constituency of members and interact. This 1 year down the line, we haven't seen that happen. So we can say COVID started in February, but between June and February, that's 8 months before COVID came on board. So, I mean, we need to see more. Like I said, the agenda, the legislative agenda of the House of Representatives, of the Senate, they're ambitious, they are nice, but we should move beyond the niceties and see performance.
Now, I want to ask you this, you know, because you have spoken on behalf of Nigerians, what is your assessment or what is your understanding of Nigerians' assessment of the National Assembly so far? You know, because from your postulations, it appears that you carry out a tremendous research, you know, to come up with a, what you have just told us a short while ago. How are Nigerians viewing the Ninth National Assembly?
Fundamentally, it's from a prism of distrust. Now, like Honorable Kalu has stated, it didn't begin with the current National Assembly. But the problem is that each assembly recognizes or acknowledges this distrust or disconnect, but they don't do anything about it. The only thing they do or tend to do about it is to aggravate it by their conduct, the conduct of members of the National Assembly and the institution. So how on earth do you expect citizens to have trust in a legislature that thinks that priority is about renovating the structure, and you allocate some billions, school billions, 27 or so billions of naira, in an era where citizens cannot feed, they don't have palliatives, they are ravaged by COVID-19, they can't feed. And what you hear in the news is that they want to renovate a structure with 29 billion naira. So can you relate that? How does that make you want to trust that institution? How do you get Nigerians to trust lawmakers who are perceived to live bogus lifestyles, who are perceived to earn wages and salaries that Nigerians think is far more than what they perform? That's another kettle of conversation. I acknowledge that there's some misinformation there. But you see, there's a whole lot more that they can do with respect to their conduct, right, in trying to mitigate this disconnect and distrust. It's a great initiative to have the magazine that you mentioned, but I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Nigerians need to see concrete action. Nigerians want to see their members and senators interact with them and say, look, this is what we want. Put it in the budget. We want to see it delivered on the budget. I'm happy you spoke about budget. Unfortunately, COVID is going to, put some question mark on the implementation of the budget. But we want to see an implementation of the budget that would have a meaningful impact on the lives and living conditions of Nigerians. So the distrust is going to persist. And direct answer to your question is that the perception from my reading of Nigerians, of the current National Assembly, is that this set of individuals still don't mean too well for them.
Well, okay, Pierre, thank you very much. I mean, happily, Honorable Kalu is here. Let's still focus on the issue of perception, and you know how critical perception is, in terms of the image of an individual as well as that of an entity. There were at least two major issues that crept up in the first year of the Ninth Assembly, as OK has indicated. One, of course, had to do with the cost, the projected cost for renovating the National Assembly. At some point, it was said to be 37 billion. I don't know how much it later came down to. And then there was also the issue of the, should I call them project vehicles or official vehicles for members of the legislature, in particular, the House of Reps. They said those cars were imported. I think they were the latest brand, but they were not immediately distributed because Corona disrupted the distribution. But whether they have been distributed now, we have no idea. And persons were asking, I mean, innocent is there. There's an executive order on Buy Nigeria, and the National Assembly itself has also been saying, yes, we must create jobs, we must not export jobs, we must also buy Nigeria. These are perception issues. How do you respond to these issues?
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to clear some gray areas on some of the things he mentioned. First, he stated that it's not about passing numerous bills. It's all about the relevance of that bill. What does it touch? I'm not sure you have read the content of the finance bill and what it tends to achieve for the country. I'm not sure you have also looked at the student loan interest-free bill and what it tends to achieve for the country. I'm also not sure you have read federal road bill and what it tends to achieve. I'm not sure you have also read the economic stimulus bill and what it tends to achieve for the country. So it is important, this is what I'm talking about, the disconnect based on misinformation, that we do deeper research without bias in understanding, the essence of what the National Assembly is doing for the country. When you talk about the, there's a bill called Physically Challenged Bill. It has never existed before. This is to take care of a particular section of our population that have been ignored and neglected. So when you say these bills are not people-oriented, they are not, what are they out there to achieve? It makes one to wonder where you did your research from. Now, going forward, the appropriation bill that came out on time, if you don't see the relevance to our national growth, then it makes me to wonder whether you are biased in your research or not. Now, let's come to another issue you raised with regards to oversight function and our intervention with some of those things. We came into place in June, and by September, committees of the House, which is the fulcrum with which the wheel with which the House function, came into place. Between September and December, Christmas holidays and all the rest of them, and coming back, COVID started January, February. Let's be fair. There is no magic you are going to do within 4 months that will be very visible to Nigerians on your oversight function. The oversight function started, but it's a process which you will not see in 3 months, 4 months' time. Did we ask questions? The answer is yes, with regards to humanitarian ministry that you just mentioned. I personally was on television with the former head SA on this particular agency or department, and I was asking questions. I said, where did you send this money? Who did you pay? And all the rest of them. And this was given birth to by series of letters written by the National Assembly to the executive. The lady was, the madam was invited 2 times, and she did not come. And you see, oversight function is a process. Did we commence it? The answer is yes. Has it been finalized? No. Is it in the process? Yes. Do we have to be patient to see it to the end? Yes. COVID has interrupted our projection, and we must take this to the bank. There is no way, no need of running away from it. On the issue of perception, yes, I agree with you. Perception is everything. And people will build confidence when they perceive you that you are there for their good. This particular National Assembly put it in the legislative agenda, like he mentioned, to increase the interaction between the public and the National Assembly. And the town hall meetings, have it started happening? Individual representatives have started it. The leadership wanted to start it before this COVID-19 took place. It's not as if we're using it as an excuse. If you go to my constituency, and I know other constituency, ask those from Bende Federal constituency. We have done our town hall meeting in December, and it's supposed to be quarterly. And in that town hall meeting, we had all the stakeholders. We formed a stakeholders administration list, covering all the faith-based organizations, the traditional rulers, and civil society organizations, all the political parties, irrespective of the political party I emerged from, to interact. The purpose is to give them a feedback of what I've done so far, and also to have an appraisal of what I have done, take questions from them, and be able to go back. So have we started town hall? It's not just talk. We have started, and the videos are there. We can show you evidence that members are having town hall meetings individually. And there is a commitment from the leadership of the House of Rep to move around. We have also been asked to start an online town hall engagement where the speaker can sit in his office and receive questions from outside. I've started doing that with Channel. Last 2 weeks I was on Channel from the comfort of my home, and Nigerians were asking me a lot of questions, and we were there addressing it. So are we walking the talk, or are we just talking? We are walking the talk. Now, on the issue of the perception as per the house, you know, the renovation of the house, first is not 37 billion or 27 billion like he said. I think it's about 9 billion as it is now, because of the outcry from Nigerians, and Nigerians need to know this, that budget is not for the House of Representatives. I have said this severally. This particular structure belongs to the FCDA. It is the executive is not part of our budget as National Assembly, and querying us about a property that belongs to the FCDA severally and making it look like we are insensitive to the needs of Nigeria, I think is very, very unfair. And it is that misinformation that we are trying to stop. We want people to get the proper information to avoid this kind of misconception. On the issue of vehicle, we've also heard that we didn't want to buy locally, we wanted to buy overseas. Nigerians need to know that I have spent 1 year in the house driving my car. I've spent 1 year using my computer that I came with to the house. So the question becomes, do you want us to walk to work? We should not, when you have, people have argued, no, we should not cite this example that the executives, you know, the ministers and the DGs, that they have, you know, a line of vehicles to help them carry their function. We go on oversight functions. And like you rightly pointed out, they are, you know, project vehicles for our oversight function. You want me to depend on the ministry I'm going to oversight for my transportation to his ministry to oversight him, and you still consider me to be unbiased in my analysis of what my findings. That will be conflict of interest. We need to be independent in the true sense of independence of the arm of government. We should not depend on the executive for basic things that we need. Vehicle is one of the basic things an officer of government needs to carry out his function, whether or not it should be bought in Nigeria. The issue of bidding for the contract is not controlled by us. I'm sure if a Nigerian company went to the procurement process and apply, you know, to supply us and bids and wins the bid, I don't think there's any reason that National Assembly will not accept the vehicle. There was no Nigerian company that showed interest. No Nigerian company, I repeat to Nigerians, no Nigerian company showed interest to supply the vehicle. Are you going to force them? You are not going to force them. We believe in local content. We believe in making sure that we increase different sources of revenue for the government beyond oil, and that you can achieve by encouraging local content. But if nobody in the industry, automobile industry, showed interest to supply the national, maybe the terms, you know, were not favorable, because Nigerians need to know that some of the people supplying this vehicle are doing it on credit and will be paid over years. Nigerians need to know this.
Honorable Benjamin.
Yes.
You know, you have spoken well, no doubt about that. But there are some very important aspect of this of your submission that many Nigerians will not really take lightly. You know, okay. when you talk about local content and you're looking for a vehicle, you know, worth over 30 million, you know, per car, you know, and you're going to buy it from another country, which of course is the third largest economy in the world, and we're talking about local content, and you are saying that nobody has come locally, you know, to perhaps to ask you if he could supply that to you. But I want to recall vividly that when Innocent came on board, he did everything. He even gave out free vehicle to the military, to ministries, you know, to even National Assembly. Perhaps you were not there then. So that has been established. And if, of course, the National Assembly say, okay, we want to procure vehicles made in Nigeria, of course you will sort it in Nigeria. But of course, we have heard so many of your members saying openly on television that they need those vehicles to come from wherever, from Japan, because these are Toyota products, right? So that one is not even arguable. Your men have said that. And again, even the Senate President once said, look, no matter what people call us, you have to do what you have to do. See, we are reasonable Nigerians, and you are being watched. As a matter of fact, some of your members, in localities where they come from, they use intimidating vehicles, you know, in convoys, you know, driving and making people believe that, look, for you to make it in Nigeria, you have to be a politician or go to the National Assembly. And that is why, of course, we've been experiencing the do or die affair when it comes to elections. Right, so now you give an example that if you are going to oversight a ministry, that you don't have to use the ministry's vehicle. The ministry does not belong to the minister or the worker. It's a Nigerian vehicle that you're going to use to be converted to where you're going to do oversight. So I don't see anything wrong there. In America, we're talking about how many of the members of the Senate are using official vehicles. How many of them are using official vehicles? You talked about your computer and what have you. So, I mean, if we as a nation want to build a nation, remember what you take, your mantle that you have in the House of Reps is to build a nation. You cannot build a nation when you are taking away jobs, you know, and of course bringing in finished product. So think about that, because I want you as a first timer in the House of Reps to bring in new ideology in the administration of National Assembly. What's your take?
Yes, my take is different from your position, and I say that without mincing words. You expect a judge to go to court depending on the lawyer's vehicle? The lawyer can take him to court. You expect a minister to go to work depending on the vehicle that is coming from another arm of government. Let's be real about this. I don't know why Nigerians.
The government is one, whether arm or no arm.
If it is one, why is it that judges are not depending on the vehicle that is coming from the Ministry of Justice to take them to work?
It depends on individuals.
No, why are they not coming to another arm of government and say, take me to work? This is, I don't know, when it comes to the National Assembly legislative arm, we think their work is so irrelevant that they don't need the basic things. You will agree that I should use my computer, personal computer, to work for the government. You will agree I will use my personal car to work for government. When colleagues that we are made DGs of agencies immediately receive a vehicle that will help them carry their job, the office is furnished, they have all they need. I use my fridge in my office, and you think it is fair. And that is the only way Nigerians will believe that we are working. I take exception to that. No, it is not proper. I'm new in the National Assembly, but that does not mean that we should whittle down the efficiency of what the role of a legislative, an arm of government, not a ministry, an arm of government, what their work there. Do you know sometimes we stay in that office till 11 p.m. at night? Do you know we are in drafting a bill, in getting a bill done? It's not a one-day job. It takes a lot of research, and all my staff, they use computers provided by me. And Nigerians are saying that is fair. I don't think that is fair. I don't think it's a fair balance. And then on the issue of the vehicle, I want to still maintain that you cannot force. We are in support of innocent. We are in support of any other local content. But you cannot force a willing servant, an unwilling servant on a willing master, and vice versa.
Must it be SUV?
You are talking about the type of car. You are talking about type of car. Let's finish about the source of car before you talk about type of car. The source of the car coming locally. Personally, I would prefer to use innocent vehicle more than even the vehicle they want to give to me, which they have not given to me. Because if it breaks down, I can get it fixed easily, and it will be cheaper. But did he show interest? That is the question. Let him come to the television and say that I made application to supply National Assembly vehicle and they rejected my offer. That is never in place. So when Nigerians make up this and say, oh, we want to go and pick up the vehicle that is driven by other arms of government, were they made in Nigeria? Were all of them made in Nigeria? Why must it come to House of Rep and there's a Senate? It must be locally made. Even if it is locally made, it should be a thing of pride to drive it. We should not make it look like, okay, it's a punishment to use a local vehicle. It is a thing of pride, proudly Nigerian, to use local vehicle. But the man who is in charge of it must show interest. So that is it. Now, on the issue of Nigerians who are in the House of Rep driving around and showing affluence, we are totally against that. I don't know where they're getting their money from. If you are a House of Rep member like me, I have not bought any new car for the 1 year I've been here. I've been using my vehicles. I've not bought a house. I've not bought anything new. I wonder the source of money, where they're getting the source of money. If you're talking about our payment, you need to investigate more. And I asked this civil society organization, I think they are biased. Because if they are not biased, they will go deep to find out the exact salary that members of the House they are receiving. If you know our salary, then when you drive big vehicle, we're supposed to ask you where are you getting the money from. Okay. When it comes to allowances that people refer to, those allowances have budget line. They have what they are meant for, both for your office here and for your constituency office at home. So the affluence that people throw around, I don't see it. I don't know where they're getting their money from, because there is no money in the House of Representatives. I have said it over and over again on national TV that the House of Representatives is broke. The budget amount that the House of Representatives is using now is too low compared to the function that is required from the National Assembly. And I will keep saying it because we are in debt. The National Assembly, House of Rep, as I know it now, is in debt. And Nigerians need to understand it. Civil society organizations should investigate more to bring out this information. And that is the fact.
All right, Honorable Carlos, thank you very much for the points you have raised. We're going to bring in OK here to also respond to the issues. Just to indicate, because we had on Good Morning Nigeria sometime last year, in fact, just after the inauguration of the 9th Assembly, one of our guests, who incidentally is also from the House of Reps, the usual comparison of saying, oh, when ministers come, or look at the kind of cars that they drive, X, Y, Z, and we cracked a joke. You want to have cars like ministers? He said yes. Therefore, so you have 360 ministers in the National Assembly. And I said that President Buhari must hear that, because how can the economy sustain 360 ministers who are in the House of Representatives? But of course, as you can see from what you are responding to, that the perception issue which OK was talking about, conduct, is one that continues to linger. OK, I would like you to respond to the issues that he has raised.
Oh, well, I need to make this clarification. I wear two hats here. As you know, I'm a journalist. And if there is any suggestion of bias, it should be that other people is biased in favor of the National Assembly. We're perhaps the only organization, I make bold to be challenged, to say this and be challenged, that provide dedicated coverage of the National Assembly for the last 5 years. There's no other organization that does a concentrated promotion, correction of the misinformation around the National Assembly than us. So that is perhaps the view of bias that you may come from. Having made that, I need to say that when I speak, I don't speak like the regular, or in quotes, activist who will not go great. I speak with facts. In my opening remarks, I mentioned figures and facts. I spoke to the data that you use in and that's the way I speak. So when you talk about Bs and Bs, I agree that those Bs that he mentioned, they are fantastic Bs. That I didn't mention them doesn't mean I don't know about them. Where are those Bs? The estimated bill, I guess, an estimated billing, the one on disabled or disabilities, these bills that they mentioned, I think they've all been passed. Where are they? They're in the Senate, awaiting concurrence. Since December, if my checks, if my records are right, and I made that reference to indicate some form of perhaps disconnects, intra-parliamentary disconnects. Why do you have such fantastic bills waiting to be concurred for so long by the Senate? The economic stimulus bill was passed on the 24th of March this year. Swift, great response by the House of Representatives. It has been lying in the Senate. What's going on? So when I talk of bills, it's not that I don't acknowledge that they are good bills, but you must also acknowledge that a lot of these bills are perhaps superfluous. So you have an alongside report that the government is trying to bring back to implement. And you have a lot of bills in the National Assembly that seek to establish new bodies, institutions, agencies. I give you facts and figures. Between June and December, there are 96 of such bills in the Senate. 96 bills seeking to establish new MDAs, one educational institution, one health center, 96 of them. 49 senators sponsored 96 bills to establish this. And the situation is not very different in the House of Reps. If you do a critical analysis of those 853 bills, you'll find out what I'm talking about. So are these bills, what is the urgent expediency of these bills? The ones you mentioned, they are fantastic, but they should be concurred and transmitted to the president for assent. So government is a continuum, and that's the speaking, the reference to oversight. Yeah, you have been doing a few things, you know, to look into palliatives. Do Nigerians know about them? What is the outcome of those interventions? The presidential aid on the SIW, the social investment, engaged the president of the Senate, the leadership of the National Assembly, in a heated exchange over the figures. And it was like, okay, we can't reel out the names because, it violates the privacy, or it's against something of beneficiaries. Really? I haven't seen a response, a determined response from the National Assembly to that. Right? Maybe it's not in the public domain. And I must make this point. Correcting, or seeking to correct the distrust, the disconnect, it's a process. It builds over a long period of time. And like I noted, and like it's been acknowledged here, it's been reinforced. So if you want to seek to explain, to correct it, there is need to be patient. There is need to be very absorptive. The criticisms will come in torrents. But when the approach is like misinformation, bias, it's not going to help. I give you another fact and figure. The issue around renovation. It is the duty, or it is the budget item of the Federal Capital Territory Administration, FCTA. Yes, we know. But who has the power of appropriation? Is it not morally repugnant that you approve that kind of item at this time? In the 8th Assembly, the same administration wanted to build residential quarters for the leadership of the National Assembly. But what happened? They said, no, it's not a priority. And that is why this date, the leadership, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, the President of the Senate, do not have official quarters, right? Residential quarters. So it's escapist for you to say that it is not us. The money doesn't come to the National Assembly, it is the executive, it is the FCTA. Really? Okay, we don't want it. Can you move this money to social investments? It will happen. So we should not take Nigerians for granted. Like, okay, this is Nigerians, you need to cut us some slack, right? It's important that we are patient to explain and engage. I'm happy that I mentioned that, the leadership, the parliament is exploring means of engaging with Nigerians. Beautiful. This is some of the things we have been canvassing. At other paper, we made a beautiful report, something around the parliament and pandemic, and how the pandemic has affected the conduct of parliamentary business across the world, a comparative analysis, what the situation is in Nigeria and how the National Assembly has responded. And one of the recommendations was to increase the engagement in spite of COVID-19. And I'm happy to mention that, they are looking in that direction, and they are looking at using, remote means of engaging with Nigerians. The engagement must continue, and it must be done in a very patient, engaging, not combative manner. Otherwise, you will further alienate the people and increase the distrust and disconnect you seek to want to address.
Exactly, and that's the point. When you are increasing the distrust, that's the point. I hope you remember this, that sometime last year, in the 8th Assembly, a member of the Senate, said that, look, we are collecting 12 million monthly. Yeah, I mean, and his fellow senators shouted him down. But he made it clear, he was a senator. So who else will tell us the truth? Is it me that is here in the studio? Well, of course, these are all part of nation building, if you like.
But I think even if you say it's 12 billion, I'm sure Honorable Kalu would tell us. The members of the National Assembly, say in particular the House of Reps, decided to forego, I think, half of their salaries as part of their response to COVID-19. We don't know where the money went to, but you decided to do that, right? Okay.
Thank you very much. Even when you're excuse me, it's all about the perception you're talking about. You see, people need to get the facts that this is the people's parliament.
That's right.
All over the world, people attack the parliament. But you see, this 9th Assembly, we came with a different body language. We came with a different objective. And let's give it to the Night Assembly, we are people-oriented.
Okay.
Before we donated our salary in March, we had already started doing things as intervention in our various constituencies. We started doing orientation. Some of us got people trained by the WHO to train our health care providers in all the primary health centers in our constituency. We got them to teach them how to notice this COVID and all the rest of them. We printed literature to teach people about COVID-19, billboards, radio jingles. We went into providing PPEs for our constituents. Yeah. We went into giving them food. This was even before the leadership of the National Assembly said, donate your 2 months' salary. Okay. Which parliament in the world has ever donated their 2 months' salary?
Okay, we'll stop you there.
There are some issues you raised I would like to...
When we come back from break.
But you didn't say where the money that you donated.
Okay, if I still have time, you know, the money goes to the account that is meant for this, controlled by the executive. It's not controlled by us.
We are going to come back to you.
We donated it just like other ones donated. We donated our own to the federation account where it will be discharged from.
We'll really come back to you. You know.
Thank you. I'm waiting for you. I'm waiting for you. I'm here for you.
Yeah, because I recall that at the incipient of COVID-19, pandemic, a lot of Nigerians are saying, look, if any member of National Assembly has the issue of COVID, it should be referred to the health clinic in his constituency. It was found, but then it has on the line,
But it's not National Assembly members that build health facilities.
No. But the point is that you are into appropriation. And all that. Let's leave it at that.
I'll tell you what we have done with the health review.
We'll come back. This is Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. We'll take a short break now. When we come back, we'll be concluding our conversation perhaps in the next 20 minutes or thereabouts.
Wetin be this coronavirus thing? Now true?
You see this coronavirus, will be COVID-19. Now the whole world palava. And it don't they kill many people for China, Italy, UK, US, Spain, and even for other countries them.
Okay, wetin come be the reason why they say make everybody stand up for house?
Now because if they waka pium go carry them from person we don't get them, you go carry come give your family them. Now so the thing take they kill other people for other countries.
Okay, wetin come be that social distancing self?
You see social distance. Now make we no come close because this thing now from air and touch now we dey contact them. We suppose dey at least 6 feet away from each other every time.
So okay, no be only to wash your hand and to sanitize them alone.
Make we not take this washing of hand thing take play, but make we come together, join hand as we take pursue Ebola, pursue this coronavirus. Make we be each other may keep us now.
We're in a fight to protect everything that matters to us. It's a fight to build, share, celebrate, and soar once more. It's a fight to win back our world. So let's fight it the way we have for generations. Let's practice healthy habits. Let's protect our hands, our homes, and our loved ones within them. Because if we do, together, we will win. Dettol, protect what's worth fighting for.
Nigerians, coronavirus is dangerous. It can kill. When you see this sign, high fever, cough, shortness of breath, drowsiness, pneumonia, don't panic, don't hide. Don't embark in self-medication. Promptly visit the nearest medical facility. Report all cases to the nearest hospital. Prevention is key. Avoid contact with infected persons. Avoid crowded areas as much as possible. Wash your hands regularly. Use hand sanitizers. Your life is precious. Stay alive. Live long, live right. This message is sponsored by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture and the Nigerian Film Corporation. Nigerian Film Corporation, powering possibility.
As a strong immune system increases the chances of victims surviving COVID-19, a corruption-free society creates opportunities for citizens to thrive and prosper. Build your immunity. Stop corruption now. Report all acts of corruption to ICPC on this toll-free number 0800 22 55 4272. This message is brought to you by ICPC and NTA.
We have observed the lockdown. We have practiced the measures in order to curb the spread of the virus, but we can do better. The coronavirus spread is increasing daily, and only together can we cut down the numbers and defeat the spread of the virus. Remember, COVID-19 is not a death sentence, and a recovered patient cannot spread the disease. Do not stigmatize. Do not hesitate to report any case, or if you have come in contact with anybody that has been infected with COVID-19. If you have cough and fever, please stay at home and call your state hotline. Find state numbers at www.covid19.ncdc.gov.ng. Remember, it is for your own good and for the good of every Nigerian. Let us do better and defeat the virus. Together, we can do this. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
Indeed, welcome back to the program, and Kingsley and I are going to take a look at the tweets that we have received this morning with respect to this very topic. You'd like to start, Kingsley?
That's right, Kirian. Dele Jack Solomon tweets that says, because no arm of government can do it alone, there is need for interdependence of the three arms of government. For good governance sake, the legislature and executive must work together in a way that there's cooperation and partnership. But the National Assembly must not just be the object of a rubber stamp for the executive.
Mike Kanyako says, frankly speaking, the 9th Assembly had a really exhibited high level of maturity in carrying out their legislative duties in the last 1 year. One of the ingredients of these is experiences of the leadership. Obviously, one cannot buy experience from Oshodi market. We expect the Assembly to function and checks and balances to the executive. There should not be a rubber stamp.
All right, Chris Simeon tweets, for both chambers to deliver creditably, the doctrine of separation of powers, checks and balances should be respected. Their affairs and conduct must be transparent and follow laid-down procedures.
Now, the two chambers from Idris Yunusa, the two chambers performed extremely good. They would be better if the two chambers create and pass a bill that will reduce unemployment of the youth.
Nuhu Mohammed, now compared to the previous one, there's quite some maturity in both houses, and this has paved the way for a strong relationship between the executive and the legislature.
Nandom Wiep, for their loyalty and patriotism to the nation, the 9th Assembly should ensure they promptly stand out for truth, equity, justice, and for the people as faithful representatives and not sit down on matters arising. God bless Nigeria.
Oscar Casey says both chambers of the National Assembly, 9th National Assembly, have failed Nigerians in the sense that they are yes members to the executive, no separation of powers.
Now, Professor Kimboya, unlike the controversial 8th National Assembly, which was a clog in the wheel of our progress in the way they pad and delay passage of our budget, the 9th National Assembly has done fairly well in their first year. National Assembly should help PMB, that's President Muhammad Buhari, to confront insecurity in our country in the second year.
The rapport between the 9th Assembly and the executive is mature, conducive, and healthy for our general growth and development. The Assembly has not been a rubber stamp, as Envy said from the outset.
All right, Musa Ahmed Zayad has something I'd like Honorable to address. I wish there's only one chamber of the National Assembly. Having two only means that Nigeria is losing billions of money without a commensurate result, especially now that we have ex-governors as senators after failing woefully in governing their states.
Amokbola Humbas, the 9th Assembly has no doubt proven last year that independence of each arm of government is not synonymous with enmity. Unlike what obtained in the 8th Assembly, where it was obvious that there was no love lost, the relationship that has existed in the current dispensation is commendable.
Now, Comrade Ngala, 9th National Assembly is one of the best assembly we have in Nigeria since independence because they have good relationship with the executive, unlike 8th Assembly.
Ibrahim Bello, the 9th Assembly has been slow and steady. There's need for mutual agreement between the three arms of government in order to attain the desired governance.
Akeju Olaboju, there is need for national discourse to work out if we can continue to support this bicameral system, which is very expensive and they drain on the federal treasury. After all, the states practice unicameral and lawmaking is not hindered.
Mutana Farouk, the healthy relationship between the legislature and the executive arms of government should not be disturbed. It is on this note I wish to commend the National Assembly. United we stand and divided we fall.
I've read Festus one, he's coming back again, but let's go to Francis Obi. They have achieved to the level of their ability. They need to work extra hard in areas of legislation and total withdraw completely from budget padding. If they cannot lobby the MDAs to include whatever they require during budget preparation, let it be. They must make sure that the Legislative College along Airport Road is completed this year so as to enable the new members be well brushed up by experienced and seasoned professionals.
Yerima Hamza says the two chambers have tried, and we believe that they will continue on the principle of separation of powers. Also, they have to direct the president on economic issues.
Ibrahim Tudu, the present National Assembly is a far departure from the last. We have seen their efforts. It's unjust to give a negative verdict when they are just starting. From the quality of the bill, so far, so good, but they can do more.
Ibu Godwin says the National Wages and Salaries Commission may wish to review downwards the salary structure of assembly members. This will bring back the confidence of the people. As it stands now, the kind of salaries they receive is alarming. Now, let's correct this. It is not the Wages and Salaries Commission that fixes the emoluments and allowances of political office holders, including members of the National Assembly. That is the responsibility of the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission.
Yeah. Cecilia Okoroma, must National Assembly buy new and expensive cars for members? They buy the exotic cars, and at the end of their tenure, they cut them away.
Now, Olawale tweets, he said, "Thank you, Kirian, for that short, beautiful clarification. Support local content. The cars do not belong to the minister. You've just educated a lawmaker."
The lawmaker knows.
It's here. All right. Anyhow, those are the tweets that we can take in the meantime. Let's, just before we went on that short break and before we also started reading out the tweets, Honorable Carlo indicated that he still had a lot of fire in his belly to respond to the issues on the table. Honorable Carlo.
Yes, thank you very much. First of all, I had some of the things that they mentioned there, and they said, why bicameral? Why don't we go unicameral?
Exactly.
And this question has been coming up over and over again, and people ask this question on the grounds of costing, economic, cost to the nation. And they forget the socio-political aspect of it, even the sociological aspect of it. Why do I say so? It gives a sense of national identity. When you have people from various cultures, diverse cultures, diverse communities come together to legislate, it gives a coloration in the legislation that reflects the identity of the people. That is one of the benefits of bicameral, system of the parliament. Also, it helps to check abuse of power. Where a certain section of the country could sit and legislate on something that is not acceptable, either culturally. We're a secular state, maybe religious as element of it will affect the other people, and all that. Also, it helps also to check the quality of legislation that is coming out, to make sure that it has a second view. Once we do what we think that is okay, and it goes up there for concurrence, and they pick holes in it, it gives them the opportunity to add their own, view to what we have legislated on. That brings me back to what my friend said. Why is it that we have this beautiful, I'm happy that he has considered that the bills were not frivolous bills, that bills were relevant to solving social needs. I'm happy that he considered.
No, I never said it.
No, he said, what are the relevance of those bills? What do they address? And second speech, he said, I agree those bills are good, but what has happened to them? You know, it's good for us to follow the discussion. So I'm happy you considered that the bills are relevant. Now, going forward, he raised a question, and that question was, what is the position of the bill? You know, the passage of a bill takes about nine steps, you know, from the introduction of the bill, first hearing, second hearing, where it comes to debate. From debate, it goes into House committee to look at it, who brings it back to what we call the committee of the whole. The committee of the whole will consider it clause by clause, and if they pass it, it goes into third hearing. The third hearing is when we pass it. After passing, it does not stop there. It will now migrate to the Senate for concurrence. The beauty of bicameral system, that is to tell the Senate, we are not all-knowing. We may have left one or two things. Please have a second view. The Senate will now look at it and concur. Now his question is, and if in the process of doing that they find out something that they will return it back to us for us to rectify. So there will be a joint committee that will look into it. So he's saying, why is the progression of the bill not as fast as it's supposed to be? He mentioned March 24th when a particular economic stimulus bill was passed, March 27th, and that up till now it has not been concurred. I know that the Senate has a role to do there, and we are full of expectation that even if their hand is few, they should find time to look at that and handle it for Nigerians. So I'm happy to tell Nigerians that they should be patient a little while, that these bills are beautiful bills that the Senate will look into and concur, you know, in no distance time. It is also important to note that recently people accused the House of trying to pass a bill that did not have the input of the public. And as a people-oriented, humble parliament, we took that feedback back to the leadership, and the House reversed themselves and said, no, we will no longer give it expedited hearing, you know, passage. Let us go back to the whole 9 years in the process of passing a bill. The element of public hearing was brought back. And today, as we speak, 2 public hearings have taken place on that particular bill. So Nigerians should be happy with this ninth assembly as assembly that is people-oriented.
Let's stop you there. You know, but I have an issue. Many would have, you know, believed that you ought to know that the public will have to make input, you know, because you represent them. But all the same, you've taken correction on the issue of a bicameral, you know, issue. I recall that Rota Sokoracha, who is now a senator, that was one of his first contributions on the floor of the Senate. You know, that there should be one chamber, as the case may be. I mean, if you can raise the number to like 200 as the case may be, but this time around the number of lawmakers we have it's astounding. I mean, I'm not sure that it's so in larger democracies. You know, let me bring in okay.
I'll comment on that.
Okay, once more. What's the take? Just look at think of what Nigerians have written in here via tweets, and of course his last response.
I just want to carry out, as part of the tweets, you know, there's the frequent reference to the 9th Assembly by those who send their tweets being a rubber stamp. From your evaluation of the 9th Assembly, is this a perception issue, or it is indeed a reality that the 9th Assembly is a rubber stamp of the executive branch?
That's a new conversation altogether. I'll try to tie my responses into it. First of all, in making my opening remarks, it was not an attempt not to acknowledge that the House of Representatives had some good bills. The electricity power sector reform bill that he mentions predates his coming into the House of Representatives. It was passed by the last National Assembly. Unfortunately, it wasn't assented to. I'm happy it has been passed again. So I know that there are good bills, to make that point clear. I'm also saying that there are bills that are not so good, or that are not urgent, or that are not experienced. The point is that the numbers do not give you a clear picture, a full picture. That's the point I'm making. It's not to argue with you that they are not good bills. Having said that, Nigerians generally should be allowed to express how they feel about their leaders. If some think that the National Assembly has done well, we can argue it, and there are points to support it. If others think that they haven't done well, they also have their valid arguments. if something that this National Assembly appears to be a rubber stamp, why are they saying that? If the President of the Senate had come out openly at a point to say, whatever President Buhari says for Nigeria is right and would pass it, how else do you define a constitutional democracy? How else do you perceive a supposed constitutional democracy when the head of an arm of government says that? So you already laid the ground for that perception that you are a rubber stamp. And we have seen a couple of things. We have seen how Nigeria is aggravating its debt portfolio. We're not seeing sufficient interrogation of that. When the National Assembly resumed from its COVID-induced break, COVID-19-induced break, you know, one of the communications they read on the floor was from Mr. President requesting a loan. And you know what? The Senate passed it under 7 minutes and adjourned indefinitely until it was forced to come back to begin sitting when the House of Representatives continued sitting. Now, there was some misinformation. Oh, why did you approve it? Is it a new bill and then a new request and then the clarification was provided that no, it was actually approved in the 2020 budget and this was just a way to say, look, we are sourcing these funds. You know, but then perception, that's where I'm coming from. The way you carry on the business of legislating and performance of your functions reinforces the perfections we're talking about. I return again to the issue of the 9 billion naira for national renovation of the National Assembly complex. They should scrap it. They should reallocate that funds. If you want Nigerians to take you seriously and believe that you serve their interest, that is not a priority. The health sector is in shambles. Doctors are on strike because they are being owed. Nigerians will be very happy if they wake up tomorrow, or if we leave the studio and it's an announcement from the National Assembly that we have decided to reallocate 9 billion naira, whatever it is, use it to pay these doctors, let them resume work. I acknowledge that the National Assembly, the leadership of the House of Representatives, has intervened more than once on this strike by doctors. But then, what is the value of these interventions? Right? If you do what I just proposed, for instance, you consider it and you do it, you have scored a major high. Exactly. Respect to public perception. Now, to the question about whether we need a bicameral legislature or not, it's a huge debate. I'm not sure we'll have the time to exhaust that. But my take, you know, in summary, is that I think that what we need to look at is how do we manage the cost of running the National Assembly to give one value for money. There are agencies of government who receive more than the National Assembly receives annually. The Central Bank of Nigeria, for instance, its annual allocations, its annual budget appropriation, and the money is spent or it dispenses on interventions, so-called, whatever they are. It's more than what the National Assembly receives to run its affairs, 2 chambers, a legislative institute, a National Assembly Service Commission. So it's not about the money. We can manage it. But how do we get value for money? Such that Nigerians will believe that, okay, yes, we are seeing this value. Let them be their jobs. So it's a huge debate. We can't exhaust it, like I said. But I think for me, we should let it be.
Okay, thank you very much. Just one curiosity. You know, Honorable Kalu, you said that the National Assembly is owned by the FCDA or FCTA. I was just wondering who also owns the villa, who owns the Supreme Court, and then who owns the Federal Secretariat? Because these are all part of the, we say, the 3-armed zone. Does the FCDA also own the villa? Does it also own the Supreme Court? Because that's next door there, and the Court of Appeal, you know, which is also nearby, and then the Federal Secretariat. I don't know. You have an idea of how this runs?
I think the executive will answer you with regards to infrastructure. It's not in our place to answer that. Okay. Let me address.
No, very quickly, because we're out of time.
Okay. I just want to say on issue of bicameral, Nigeria should sustain it at the moment. The reason being, our democracy is an emerging democracy, and there's a lot of sentiment in this country, and we're a diverse nation. It gives a sense of belonging to every part of this country to sustain what we have as it is at the moment.
All right.
So let's not consider cause and remove the relevance.
Okay, we'll stop with the Honorable. Now we are just out of time. You know, you've spoken a lot. Actually, you have defended the National Assembly very, very robustly.
It's my job. It's my job.
Exactly, exactly. And on this note, ladies and gentlemen, we are coming to the end of this particular edition of Good Morning Nigeria. We thank you for being with us, and we also like to appreciate our two guests who are very heavy-duty guests, if you like. Benjamin Kalu is an honorable member and the spokesman of the House of Representatives. It's been a pleasure hosting you this morning. We'd like to see you again some other time.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me. Nigerians, thank you for tuning in. Thank you.
And again, Pierre, Executive Director, Other Paper Nigeria. This man is a professional colleague. He's also an activist. Of course, he has a better understanding by, of the workings of National Assembly. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
All right. If we have enough time for sports, I doubt that now. Yes, but of course, you heard when we reviewed the papers, some of the very popular leagues have resumed. And so we'll see how it goes with us here in Nigeria. Kieran, so we're out of time for today's edition of the program. We're back tomorrow, same time, 7 o'clock in the morning. Stay safe and be well. I'm Kingsley Osadolo.
And I'm Kieran Umayo. Have a great day.
Here to talk about the reason.
Ǹjẹ́ fámà lè sọ pé ènìyàn ti lùgbàdì COVID-19? Rárá o, fámà kò lè sọ bóyá ènìyàn ti ní COVID-19 tàbí kò ní. Ara gbígbóná lásán ní irinṣẹ́ yìí lè yẹ̀wò láti sọ bóyá a ní ibà tàbí a kò ní. Gbogbo wa la sì mọ̀ pé ọ̀kan lára àpẹẹrẹ COVID-19 ní ibà jẹ́. Àjọ WHO sọ pé kò dìgbà téèyàn bá tó fi àpẹẹrẹ coronavirus hàn kó tó lè kó ran ẹlòmíràn. Torí náà, ẹ rí i pé ẹ ń ta kété sí ara yín kí ẹ sì mú ìmọ́tótó lọ́kùnkúndùn. Ká tó wá máa lọ, ẹgbẹ́ ìmọ̀ràn yìí, gbogbo àwọn ìpínlẹ̀ nílẹ̀ Yorùbá bí àwọn orílẹ̀-èdè mìíràn lágbàáyé ló ti pọ́n ní dandan fún àwọn aráàlú láti máa lo nǹkan bómú face mask fún àǹfààní ara wọn. Oríṣiríṣi aṣọ láti ti ń rí tí àwọn èèyàn fi ń ṣe ìbomú yìí. Àwọn elétò ìlera ti kìlọ̀ pé ó léwu ká máa faṣọ bojú àti imú àwọn ọmọdé, pàápàá jùlọ àwọn tọ́jú orí wọn ò ju ọdún méjì lọ. Ẹ kàn sí àwọn elétò ìlera fún ìmọ̀ràn tó péye lórí èyí, tàbí kẹ́ ẹ jẹ́ káwọn ọmọ yín ó dúró ńlé. Ẹ máa fọwọ́ yín pẹ̀lú omi àti ọṣẹ o. Ó tún dọ̀la.
According to the International Classification of Diseases, reattachment is a putting back in or on all or a portion of a separated body part to its normal location or other suitable location. Did you know that the first reimplantation to be performed in the world involved repair of the brachial artery and was done by a team of chief residents led by Ronald Mott at Massachusetts General Hospital, United States in 1962? Join us as we dive further into this notable feat and the advancements that have taken place in the field since its inception.
Welcome to the physicians.